thanks for joining me. Spring has come and gone, and the heat of summer is already upon us here in Datça, Turkey. Despite now living in a warmer climate, I actually dislike the summer months, and most of the time I like to treat it like others treat winter. But instead of being inside with my heat going, I'll have my AC on. However, the one thing I've been looking forward to with these warming months is that I can finally start to enjoy the sea. Growing up in the Midwest of the US, I only really experienced lakes, which were nice, but the buoyancy of the crystal clear saltwater of the Aegean cannot be beat. So I thought I'd take you along for a day of enjoying some nearby beaches. Our first stop was at Palamut Buku beach, which is probably the best known beach here in Datça. We visited at the beginning of June on a Saturday, and although I know that summer vacations haven't started yet here for school children in Turkey, I was still surprised to see how empty the place was considering the weather was beautiful on this day and it was a weekend. The main road along the seafront is lined with restaurants, cafes, and bars, and then on the other side of the road next to the beach is usually their seating area. Fish is a popular dish to enjoy here, but just keep in mind that prices for dining in Turkey aren't what they used to be, and I honestly don't notice much of a difference between prices here and other popular vacation spots in other parts of Europe, for example. Price is relative, of course, so depending on where you're visiting from, you might still consider it to be reasonable. But just considering that the average salary in Turkey is much less than in many other countries in Europe or the US, these dining costs are unfortunately quite expensive for a lot of Turks. There seemed to be an abundance of accommodations in the area for those looking to stay and enjoy life by the sea. I've noticed in Turkey you don't find as many chain hotels like you would in the US, especially outside of major cities, but more so accommodations known as apart hotels or pensions, which I guess are a bit more similar to an Airbnb, I'd say. I also find that there's a lot of tiny home community accommodations here in Datça. The beach here in Palamut Buku is a favorite for many because it's quite large, and most of the beach is made of these small pebbles, which I prefer to sand anyhow because it's less messy, and the water is really great in this area. It's so nice and clear, which makes it such a joy to swim in. The next beach that we went to was Kurubük beach, which is just down the road from Palamut Buku. And I don't recall seeing any signs for it, but as you round the cliffside road, you'll get a glimpse of it. There's a small makeshift parking lot, but no restrooms or changing station or any of that kind of stuff. It did seem to be a popular place with campers, though. The rocks at this beach were much larger than the other one we went to, which I don't mind at all. We just needed better footwear to make it easier to walk. The beach was small, and the little bay was more enjoyable in my opinion than being on a wide open beach, but to each their own. Still, the water was incredibly clear, and it was neat to watch the subtle changes of turquoise to navy as you gazed out further and further. And just a bit further down the peninsula is Ovabuku beach in Mesurye village. This is another popular beach here in Datça, but it is smaller compared to Palamut Buku. But like Palamut Buku, you'll find plenty of accommodations and restaurants and bars. But the main road is a bit cuter in my opinion, since it's more shaded and it has a little bit of a cozier feel to it. Like most other beaches, you'll find sun loungers here as well, and while the beach is open to the public, the sun loungers do need to be rented. I know that these sun lounge facilities can cause quite a bit of controversy, especially with locals, since they take up a significant portion of the public beach, and sometimes leave very little space to enjoy free of charge. Luckily on this day there was hardly anyone here, so we didn't have to worry about finding space, but I know that's not always the case. We arrived here in the afternoon after the wind had picked up a bit, so the water was a little wavier than the other beaches we visited, which made it more difficult to swim in. But regardless, the temperature was just right, and I still got to enjoy the clear sea. Just next to Ovabuku was another beach we hadn't been to before called Hayet Buku. This small bay was quiet, but it was still more active with beachgoers than all of the rest that we had visited on this day combined. Since the water of this bay is naturally more protected, swimming is easier to enjoy without any waves. The only downside here is that the narrow beach seemed to be nearly full of beach loungers, and there really wasn't much free space for public access, which is a shame. But just down the road was another larger beach where you could also take advantage of the calm waters. I hope you enjoyed this little look at just a handful of the beaches here in Datça. If you've been to any of these before, let me know down in the comments below if you have a favorite. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to see more from my perspective as an American living in Turkey, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and giving this video a thumbs up. Until next time, thanks!